All right, I think we're live. So obviously we've just been speaking for a
Okay.
little while anyway, but thanks for
Yes.
jumping on today, mate.
That's
What I want to
about the
get
next
out of this,
podcast.
yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, I feel like we're going to have about a million at the end of this. I like it though. So yeah, can you just start off sort of telling me a little bit or telling everyone a bit about who you are, what you do, and then a bit about what life looked like before we started working together. I think that's a good place to
Yeah,
start.
of course. Yeah. So yeah, I'm Jack Adams, and I'm a dad first. I've got a little boy, a little 3 year old, who is absolute world to me. He's just such a brilliant kid. And I am also an entrepreneur. So I run a mortgage business. It's been running for 7 years now, and we've gone through the difficult first 5 year period, and we now seem to be really kind of like building the business. So yeah, that's kind of what I do outside of what we're talking about, and yeah, I guess a little bit about the fitness health side of things for me. Previously is I've always struggled with losing weight. I'd always wanted to kind of drop weight, but I'd always kind of struggled with it. I always had a massive interest in it though. So I'd been going to the gym on and off for years, really since I left college. And I had a real interest in nutrition. So I was really interested in how food fuels and kind of like powers our body basically, and very much from the health side of things. So you know, I've experimented with tons of different diets. I've done the carnivore, I've done keto, I've done vegan. I was a vegan at one point. Yeah, I watched
I
that
didn't
What
know
the Health document. Yeah, yeah, I tried it. It wasn't for me, but I
that.
tried. And yeah, I watched that What the Health documentary,
Yeah.
and I was so shocked by it. I couldn't believe it. And then I did veganism for a while, and felt actually pretty good from it. But then I did a bit of further research, and my mindset shift changed on it. I realised that the documentary is actually made by vegans, so it's probably more leaning towards their ideology and their thoughts. So yeah, I did that for about 2 months. But yeah, I've dipped in lots of different diets and never could really find anything that worked for me. I'd always tried. I'd been going to the gym for many years, but never really found anything that worked.
Yeah, cool. Great overview there. There was another documentary as well. There's one, the fish one as well. I can't remember what that's called. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
It's a
Seaspiracy, wasn't it? It was called
yeah,
Seaspiracy.
that's it. Yeah, yeah. And then
Yeah.
it's only until you look into it and you realize who's actually behind these. And it's the
Yes,
companies that are pushing them out, right? And then you start to think about it
absolutely.
differently. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting. And
I think that rings true with like a lot of things that you research is, and one thing that I realized is that rather than just watching something, reading something and leaving it, I actually started to look into, okay, well, who was behind that and what
mm,
would be the reason that they might want to push that agenda. Now, obviously, there's a lot of content, a lot of information out there that is research backed by scientists, etc., that have got good intentions, but there's also a lot of stuff out there from those scientists as well that are maybe backed by sugar companies, for example, or
exactly.
and they are then their research is kind of biased towards that direction. So, yeah, I think you have got to be really careful with what you read online, what you watch, because you can go down a bit of a rabbit hole and be convinced that that's the right idea. And because you've now searched it, everything on your social media is going to be coming up as that's the
Yeah,
right thing for you to do. And then you're convinced there's nothing else. And that I think is probably, an issue with a wider issue
yeah,
with
definitely.
what's
Yeah,
going on in the world, with
yeah.
certain things. So,
And which definitely makes it really complicated, and no one really knows what to trust because those things are very convincing. That's the problem.
yes,
Um,
absolutely.
so before we started, then what was going on in your like just before we started, not maybe 7 years ago, etc. What was going
Yeah.
on with your training, nutrition, and like day to day life? How was that looking?
Yeah, so I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I was doing that a few times a week. I was training occasionally, sporadically. I think the issue with my training, and I think this has always been the issue with my training really, is that I never liked to record things down. So I
Yeah.
was never a fan of, and I think I might have even said it to you maybe when we
Yeah.
started. But you know, it kind of it felt like too much hard work, you know, to record everything every time we do a set. My mindset has very much changed on that, but we'll get into that later, I'm sure. But yeah, I was kind of sporadically changing. My diet was, I would say, kind of. I always, as I say, I always had an interest in health and nutrition. So I always tried to eat nutritious foods. I love cooking. You know, I always said that if I wasn't in mortgages, I might well have been a chef. Yeah, I really enjoy cooking. I like getting a recipe and creating something new and using lots of different flavors and spices and herbs and etc. So I was always kind of eating good stuff, but it was in the evenings where that really failed and fell by the wayside. And you know, I would eat, you know, crisps, chocolate, sweets, whatever I could get my hands on, really, with no kind of discipline and no knowledge of what that was actually doing to me and how
Mm.
many extra calories that was actually adding on to me. You know, I was kind of every day snacking on those extra things. And I thought, you know what? Oh, that's a little bit of chocolate here. That's, yeah, you look at it and you think, oh, it's a small amount of food. It can't be that many calories. But it's because I didn't have the knowledge of the calories and what calories look like on a chocolate bar versus chicken breast or rice, for example, or
Yeah.
potatoes, you know, and that volume side. And that was definitely a bit of a revelation. But there was no structure, there was no routine. Um, I've never really been a big drinker, never really like in the evenings and stuff, but I'm quite a sociable person. I got, you know, friends that I like to go out with at the weekends, occasionally. And what would happen is it's the classic, and I'm sure there's lots of people that will probably be able to relate to this, is that you don't really drink much during the week, but then it gets to the weekend and you might have a couple of drinks and then you're like, okay, this is great, and then you drink some more and drink some more, and then you don't really know how much you're drinking, and obviously that can ruin any gains that you might have done in the gym that week, and add on a huge amount of calories. But it's not even so much the night of drinking. For me, it was always the next day,
Mm.
because that killed any productivity. It meant that I would just be sitting indoors watching TV, sitting on the sofa. But again, I'd go and buy those snacks and the, you know, all the things that are bad for you. And you get a pizza, you'd always get a takeaway when you're hungover. You know, I think most people do that, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe not you, Tim,
I used
but
to. Domino's was my
yeah,
thing, like
yeah,
religiously. But
yeah,
what you were sort of saying, I don't think it's the awareness around the knock-on effect of those little things over the course of the week that I think a lot of people aren't aware of, and
yeah,
what it can add up to in terms of food. Even if it's just sauces like ketchup, for example, people can be having 600 calories over the course of the week when it's just, I have a bit of this, and then
yeah.
you have a little bit of biscuit as well. It's not much food, and it's not going to fill you up, but over the course of the week, that adds up massively. But yeah, Domino's was my thing until one
Mm,
day I didn't have a Domino's, and I actually
right.
had some nutritious food, and I was like, Jesus Christ, I feel so much better.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's actually been, I think, 3 years since I've had Domino's now, and that used to be my thing.
really. Oh wow.
Yeah,
I mean that, yeah, that's a good accolade to have.
yeah,
I think, yeah, for me as well. I actually, funnily enough, I tried. I think I might have told you I did a 72-hour fast once,
oh yeah,
which was really difficult, really challenging. Felt good whilst I was doing it, and felt like it was, you know, they talk about with that fasting over that long period of time that it can actually heal injuries in your body and all that sort of stuff. But after, I was so hungry that after, I developed this craving for pizza. So when I come off my fast, that was all I wanted. So
yeah,
I ended up having, and it was like it took away all of the probably good
yeah,
work that I did from the fast anyway.
yeah,
So, but yeah, ever since then, I've had like I've like developed a love for pizza, should I say? But to be honest with you now, you know, you look at the pizza and the calories in pizza, and even like a shop bought one or a homemade one, and I acknowledge the way that I feel now after having that pizza,
yeah.
and how full it keeps me for a period of time, and it just doesn't fill me up, and you don't feel good after it. And now it's a lot easier for me to recognize that now than what it ever has been before.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, I still love pizza. I just don't go Domino's now. I go for like wood fire sourdough just because
Yes.
of how it makes me feel and it still tastes
Yeah.
banging.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. So was there anything specific or did anything specific trigger you to finally like want to make a change from where you were just before we started working together?
Well, so to be honest with you, it was, yeah, I think when you go through the Christmas period, again, I'm sure a lot of people can probably relate to this. But when you go through the Christmas period, it's kind of the time that you relax a little bit, should we say? You
Indulge
might
a little
have
bit more.
indulge. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Indulge, have chocolate. Things are bought in from businesses. Obviously, I run a business, so we have other businesses that come here and they give us things, and they're like the most amazing chocolate biscuits that you've never seen before, that are like
Yeah.
decadent and amazing. You're like, there's no way that I can possibly resist this. So I think you go through that Christmas period, and obviously you're drinking a bit of alcohol there and here and there. And I think we were communicating over that period, weren't we?
Yeah.
So prior to that, actually, I knew a couple of people that were training with you. So I'd heard about you, and I think after that, I followed you on social media. Um, and I think actually we might have even exchanged some messages. I think you said kind of like what you're here for, and we spoke a little bit, a couple of messages here and there, and then we
Mm.
didn't really move forward at that point. And then there was a moment where I was in the gym. I was at, I think it was Pure Gym, and I saw one of your clients, one of the people that you work with, and I knew him before he worked with you, and
Okay.
he was, yeah, I think it'd be fair to say he would agree that he was kind of overweight at that time. He wasn't happy with the way that he looked, and I saw him in the gym, and I walked past him and I didn't recognize him. Okay, so I didn't recognize him at all. I didn't even notice him. So I then was in the changing room after, and then he came over and went, "Oh, you all right, mate? How you doing?" Because I knew him, and I was like, "Oh, mate, I did not recognize you there," and it was because he was shredded. He had gone from somebody who was, quite overweight to being completely shredded, and looked better. I could tell he was happier in himself. Like there was just a whole change of him as a person. And to be honest with you, I'm very much a person where I think you do need mentors and coaches in
Mm.
areas that you want to improve. And you should take advice from people who have walked the path that you want to walk, and don't take advice from people who haven't, and take advice from people who have got proven results. There was no bigger proof to me than that.
Yeah.
That was all the
That's
proof that I
epic.
needed. I'd tried loads, and I'll be honest, I'd signed up to loads
Yeah.
of different. I think it was I won't say the names of them, but I signed up to them, and they just didn't. They weren't what I thought that they would be, and it gave me no results.
Yeah.
And I didn't stick with them. It just wasn't the right thing for me. And I thought, well, based on the fact that I knew this guy had trained with you, and I've seen the results firsthand, I mean, I didn't see him that whole time that he was training. So it was literally just from when I knew him before to when I saw him then in the gym. And I was like, that is firsthand proof that number one, Tim knows what he's doing. And number two, he's getting the results. So it was at that point, I then was like, I want to make a change now. It was over Christmas time, and I was like, that January is the time. I know it's a bit cliche, New Year's resolutions and
Yeah.
stuff, but it wasn't so much of a New Year's resolution for me. It was a health change. It was a
Yeah.
habit change. It was things that I wanted to adopt. I know a lot of the things, because as I say, I've had an interest in it for many years, nutrition and health and all that sort of stuff. But there was lots of things missing from not having you there, an online coach and a mentor. And as I said, I saw it work with him, and I was like, this is the time. So I reached out, and yeah,
Here
here
we
we
are.
are.
I think that's a good point as well that you mentioned. Like you've got an interest in it as well. And one thing that I've come to realize, I've actually just done a post on this today that is in my drafts, is that often the information isn't the issue. We don't have an information problem. We tend to have like an actual application problem, putting it
Yeah,
into real life. Everyone knows they should eat better. Everyone knows that they should move more. Everyone knows they should sleep better and drink more. But it's actually just putting it into real life and making it work for you. That
yeah.
that's where the disconnect is. So yeah, that's cool
Yeah.
to hear. But so that's when you reached out to me. Was there any hesitations before, like before starting at all?
Um, I wouldn't necessarily say hesitations, because if you think about it, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to achieve. I'm really disciplined in a lot of other areas of my life, and I kind of felt that with the right person, I could be there. I could get there. And I guess. I guess when I say no hesitation, there's always a bit of a hesitation, isn't there? Because, you're
Yeah.
committing to something, you're going ahead, you think, am I going to have the time to do this? Am I going to be able to get the results that other people got? But to be honest with you, they were small, and it was overcome quite quickly for me, because I'm generally a positive person. I'm forward thinking. I always think that anyone can achieve anything if they put their mind to it. I think if you really have got a goal that you want to achieve, you can achieve it. Now, achieving it with somebody else in your corner who knows what they're doing, and can speak from experience, and you can get advice for about even just like loads of little things, I think always gives you a massive step up. And again, I apply that rule to many areas of my life. Obviously, I'm a
Mm.
business person, I'm an entrepreneur. I seek out mentors in those areas of my life, as I know you do as well.
I'm at that stage in my life now when you said investing into other mentors and things like that. I've got the most amount of mentors I've ever had. Like as a coach, I think you know this anyway. I've got my own coach, I've got a business mentor, and I've got a social
Yeah.
media coach as well. So I've got, like you,
Yeah.
why would I not want to learn from those people? And it has only benefited me in every single one of those areas. Again, I mean, with the business side of things and social media, maybe it is a knowledge gap that I have. With the coaching side of things,
Mhm.
I know what I'm doing, but I like to be held accountable
Yeah.
for those as well. So yeah,
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
with you on that. Um,
Yeah.
have you since starting? I think I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit more, but has there been any light bulb moments for you at all, out of interest, like, or any mindset shifts, or any like habits and small wins that have had a big impact?
Yeah, to be honest with you, there's been tons, but just to pick
Wow.
out like a few key ones for me. So TDEE,
Yeah,
yeah, that total daily, for any people that don't know, total daily energy expenditure. I mean, that was a bit of a revelation when you showed me that, and I know that was quite recent. But the fact that most of your energy expenditure comes from just living,
existing.
and then non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Is that the right
Nailed
thing?
it.
Yeah, there we go. And only maybe 5 to 10% of your total calories burned come from exercise. I mean, that was definitely a bit of a mindset shift. And it
Mhm.
actually made me realize that, yeah, I mean, and I think that's the one thing is I always felt like I had to train 5 times a day. Again,
Yeah,
I listen to a lot of podcasts and read a lot of books, and it's kind of like, part-time effort, part-time results. When actually you need to detach yourself from that slightly, because with training and things like that, and muscle recovery, actually the recovery is as important as the training itself. And I think there's maybe a lot of times that I wasn't necessarily giving my muscles long enough to recover. I felt like I had to train 5 times a week. And as I say, I've got a little boy. I like to, I drop him off at nursery and pick him up a couple of times a week. So I was looking at that and I was thinking, how can I fit all these training sessions in? And again, that's where we sat down, we made a plan. You're like, yeah, 3 times a week. That's fine. We go Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and it was all the mornings that I don't have my little boy to take to nursery. So I've got a lot more. I've got more time to, because that's when I like to train in the mornings.
mhm.
And yeah, we fit it around that. Now, obviously, I've got my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that I do, 2 evenings a week as well, and we've obviously added some more cardio, and so it's ramped up a bit. But initially, to get started, those 3 sessions, I always felt I needed to train 5 to 6
Yeah.
times a week. I felt that was needed.
I feel like that's very common as well, especially if that's something you've done in the past. I see that
Yeah,
a lot with guys that maybe have families now, or they're climbing their ladder with work or business, whatever. That your life isn't the same now as it was when you were 20 and you had the time to
definitely,
do it. So it is
definitely.
the quality over the quantity that pays off, and then obviously what you do outside of it, like you say,
Yeah,
like even just walking a little bit further. Like I think I said to you in one of your
yeah,
check-ins at one point, I was like, take your
yeah,
trainers to work.
yeah,
Like if you want to do more, that's where you want to be placing those efforts. Um,
100%.
what has been like? What part of the structure has helped you the most at the moment? Like, has it been nutrition, training, the coaching? Has there been anything in particular?
To be honest with you, I think it's actually not anything in particular. It's everything.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the structure itself. I know how to train. I know how. Well, that's another revelation for me. Actually, is about food. Yeah, because food is a subject that we definitely need to talk about. But yeah, the structure of everything is kind of what has helped me the most, I would say. Having the structure, sticking to it, like, my gym sessions are like my job now. It's like I
Mhm.
wouldn't just not turn up to work for a day. So I'm going to turn up to my gym sessions in the morning because it's booked in. I think you always message whenever I do my check-in on the Sunday, you always see that I've then you do my reply back on the Monday. And then you always, like, you've made a point a few times saying, I love it how you get that Monday session in, start the week strong.
Yeah.
Monday is a crazy day for me because I'm up at 5, I'm at gym at 6, I have a whole day at work. I then come home and I go then to jujitsu, which is at 7. I don't get home till about 8. So it's like that structure there. And then I got to do the bins. But Monday's my bin day as well. So,
Yeah. I
you know,
remember you saying that on the
full on-
first call.
it's a full on day. Yeah. So I now put them out Sunday night because I'm like, the last thing I'm going to want to do after that full day of training and jujitsu
Yeah.
is put my bins out. So I put them out Sunday night now. But yeah, so like the structure itself is really important, and getting that Monday session in is great. I love doing that Monday session. It also discourages me from, if I do go out for some drinks at the weekend, like the weekend just gone, a few drinks, stuck to 4 drinks, didn't go crazy with it. And actually by Monday, I felt great, when usually it would take me till Wednesday, Thursday, and I would still be eating bad for all those days. So
Yeah.
that is how, that's how much it puts me out. So
It's
yeah,
that
I
Monday
definitely
morning, that Monday non-negotiable that I've tried instilling into you. Like you
yes,
don't. I say this to a few people. Like when you wake up on a Monday, it's not, oh, here's Monday. It's not, no, this is the training day. I
yeah,
know I'm getting up to train and get that first session done and out of the way. Sets you up for the
yeah,
week. Sets you up for the
yeah.
day.
Yeah, and it's a good session as well because it's like, the Tuesday session's the leg session.
Yeah.
So if Monday was a leg session, it might not be as enjoyable.
Yeah.
But and I only say that because I actually do like training legs, but it's the one that I feel like it takes a lot of energy out of you. When you have a big leg session, it's because they're the
Definitely.
biggest.
I'm just
So
going to put 3 leg days in now.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um,
Yeah. Nice.
so yeah, I think the structure itself. I would also say actually that the way that, although I knew a lot about training and I researched it and stuff, I was probably a bit stuck in my ways with it.
Mm.
Sometimes just 4 sets of 10, 3 sets of 12, or whatever. And I wouldn't really mix it up as much. Actually, the way that you do it by having maybe a lower reps the first 2 sets and go heavyweight, and then you drop the weight down and then up the reps at the end movement. Sorry, that for me was actually really good because I had been getting a bit bored of my workouts because I never really looked at other alternatives. So actually that was really good. And also,
Yeah.
again, I think with the workouts that you've done, 5 or 6 movements. Sometimes I was squeezing in too much and I was doing like maybe 4 sets, 3, and it was too much. And your body's just knackered after that. And again, trying to do it as much as I was doing it. So I think that again definitely opened my eyes up to different way of training, which is more enjoyable as well. Because when you're doing the 2 heavy sets, you're actually the last set you're quite happy is not another heavy set and you drop it down.
Yeah.
Um,
I think often people save themselves for that last set as well, is what I found. I
yeah,
definitely used to be a 4 sets of 10 to 12, even sometimes 5. There's a place for anything, but if you're doing 8 exercises, 4 sets, 10 to 12 reps of everything, you are going to
yes,
save yourself for those final exercises. Otherwise, you are
yeah,
going to be, if you're training with intensity, you're not going to be able to make it
exactly,
with any quality.
yeah.
Um, Again, about quality, not the quantity of it, of what you're doing. Um, has anything
Yeah.
surprised you about the process at all?
So I mean, I think food, right? So
Mm,
I always felt I needed a meal plan. Like I need somebody to design my whole meal plan and give me this whole thing. I know you don't really believe in meal plans, and I think I was like, "Oh, Tim, could you create this? Could you create that?"
yeah, it
And
was at the
come
start,
back to
wasn't it?
Yeah. And that's what I thought I always needed. And actually, I reflect now back on the other training programs that I did that gave me the meal plan. I just didn't stick to it because I wasn't eating the foods that I enjoyed. And
Mm.
I was always an all or nothing person. I don't think I actually am anymore since going through this process. An all or nothing. I'm either 100% or not. I don't think that's a good way to be, because as soon as you do one thing wrong, which you're human, you're guaranteed to fail in one or two areas, or that's going to be constant throughout life. It's not about perfection; it's about consistency. And I think, the fact that I could be flexible with my diet, because I like cooking. And I could still eat some of the foods that I wanted to eat. So I still have a bit of chocolate. I have that most days, maybe, 4 out of 7 days. I'll put just a small like amount of buttons in some yogurt, for example, or the
The M&S
Biscoff.
buttons.
Yeah, M&S buttons, that's it. Or the Biscoff that we
Yeah.
both enjoy. Yeah. But
Did you get
obviously
that squeezy bottle, by the
I
way?
did. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I've got a kilo of Biscoff now in my Um, but yeah, so it's just being smart with things like that. And I think
Yeah,
actually that was one thing, again, a light bulb moment, which you always said is, I think it's called food pairing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
yeah,
the food pairing, or
yeah.
where
Food
you
pairing.
basically, yeah, not just having the yogurt with one thing in there, you're putting the fruit in, you're putting then a bit of honey and a bit of chocolate, and then you've got the little bit of chocolate, but you're getting full from everything else. So then you're not wanting to just eat 5 bags of those mini buttons, for
Yeah,
example. Which I'll confess, I've done that on a couple of occasions. I made the mistake of not pairing it, having a bag of buttons and thinking, that sugar hit, that sugar rush, and you're like, oh, I now need more of that.
yeah,
And again, I don't know if most people are like this. I don't know if I'm sure they probably are, but when I have a bit of the chocolate and sugar thing, is it often doesn't satisfy the craving. It makes the craving worse. Um, and there is research done. I think it was by, you can look at this online as well. It's the University of Bordeaux, 2007, which says sugar, and based on all their experiments, sugar is 4 times more addictive than cocaine, and it affects with your brain more than most drugs would. So sugar is the most available drug available to everybody, and that is the one thing I think, if you can cut that. If I think about the crisps, the chocolate and the things that I was eating that's put me over, that was all sugar related, and it was addiction. It was being addicted to those things. And again, it's particularly if if you had a stressful day, which a lot of people have, busy at work, you got stuff going on with the family, and you've got to take people here, there, and you've got to be in 10 places at once, and it can all get on top of you and a bit overwhelming. You know, are you turning to those things? Are you
yeah.
turning to that sugar? And that was a disconnect that I really needed to make. And I think that was actually, I would say, arguably is my biggest problem, and the thing that I'm most satisfied with being able to like eradicate, or not completely eradicate, but like certainly disconnect it
Manage a bit
from.
more as well.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I think I only said it to you recently. It's about making, well, I hate saying like the good and bad side of things, but I remember saying this to you recently. It's like it's making those bad days less bad,
That's right.
and it doesn't
Yes.
have to be perfect. But I think that's what people should be aiming for instead of completely getting rid of certain things sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, okay, yeah, that's really interesting. So,
And
in
yeah, I
terms of
think that
actually, go
what
on.
you said there as well, when you said that to me a few times, is, and this is again the good thing about having a coach. And I don't say it's just because we're doing this podcast. Like genuinely, people who talk to me, and because I show them some of the progress photos, and when friends are interested in stuff, and like, what have you been doing, and talk to them. I genuinely tell them the fact that I've got you there, and I do. I WhatsApp you all the time, and credit where credit's due. You always WhatsApp me back super fast. You're always on it, unless I know that you're in the middle of something, or you're doing something that you're actually not with your phone, but you're always there, and you give me quick advice when I'm like in the moment, like,
Mm,
Tim, what should I do with this? You've been there at the times when I really needed that question answered, and that's something that you don't get with and even a lot of online coaches. You sign up to these things, you don't get to speak to the person, or it's somebody else, and you don't get a direct contact link there. It's
yeah,
got to be done at certain times and days or whatever. And I think hats off to you, mate, 'cause I don't know how you manage all of that with all your clients and stuff, but yeah, I'm sure it's
stressful.
incredibly. Yeah, I bet.
But
So but
yeah, no, you got to be strict
Yeah.
with it. But I love it, and like I won't hear from you for a few days, then I'll get like a load of messages, and that's when I'm
Yes.
like, oh, if there's X amount of messages there, I can't not open it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like the
Yeah.
intrigue is there, so you know how to work me as well. I think. Um,
Yeah. Rather than one long.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Okay, that's good. Well, I'll keep doing that then.
yeah. I've just given away my secrets there as well. Um, so what kind of physical changes have you seen like since we've started?
Yeah, well, looking at the stats, so I started off at I think it was about 209, just short of 209 pounds, and I was as of this morning. I think I've got it written down there. What was I? 181 pounds. So we're looking at what was that about 27, 28 pounds and really it's only been from like the second week in January.
Yeah, and the best thing for me is what you've had going on in between that as well, right? So I think one of the things that you mentioned on the first call was like, oh, I'm going skiing in a couple of weeks or something like that.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, it's
yeah, I
fine, don't
forgot
worry
about
about it.
skiing.
So you've had skiing in there, and then recently it was Mauritius for a couple of weeks, right? As well, or about
Yeah,
almost
that's
two
right.
weeks.
Yeah,
Was there
yeah.
another one in there as well? I can't remember. Anyway, you've had a lot going on,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
obviously
There's
this
been
week as well is a hectic week for you. So it's like I don't know. This is the big thing that I put across on socials that hopefully comes across. Everyone has a busy life. Everyone's
yeah,
got things going on. You can still make it work, and I think that's the all or nothing mindset that you're probably not perfect at it now, but you're starting to get more familiar with, right? And finding that middle ground.
definitely. Definitely. And I think that acknowledgement and that, actually that's complete, it's relatable for me, for you to say those things of like, look, you're going to have these things like, and you want to enjoy yourself on those holidays.
Mm.
I was definitely still more conscious of things and actually, but that's just because, you're conscious of, you don't want to go so far backwards. But I indulged. I enjoyed myself on that holiday, on both of those holidays. And I wasn't super restrictive. And I think again that's something else that's been really different here, is where I would try and do it myself. I was again all or nothing. You're like right. Never eating sugar again. I'm never gonna have
Yeah,
this again. I'm never gonna have anything. I'm never gonna drink a drop of alcohol. Like I'm just gonna go teetotal. And then as soon as you have one tiny bit of chocolate, you're right, that's it. I can't do it. I'm obviously not good enough to do this. And yeah, you have all those limiting beliefs that you're never going to achieve those things. And actually, what I really liked with what we did, well, the first thing actually, and I did want to talk about this because I actually think this is like the genius bit of what we were doing, which is your priming phase. That
yeah, yeah.
is superb. For me,
Throws so many
um,
people off though, because it feels counterintuitive if it is fat loss or weight loss they're coming for, right? But yeah, there
yeah,
is method behind it.
100%. The priming phase is the thing that I think if had I not done that, I don't know if I would have been able to stick with it. Like, well, I think I probably would have got for it. It would have been a hell of a lot more difficult. I don't
Yeah,
think without that priming phase, so I was on 2,700 calories a day and I was still dropping weight. I was like,
yeah,
what? So what must have been on before? I must have been consuming that plus then all the sugar in the evening. So I was probably on like 3,700, maybe even more sometimes. And that's what you realize is that actually, when you start recording things and you realize how much the oil is and the butter is, those
mm,
things that add on a lot, and a chocolate bar or a big bag of buttons or a big bit, a bag of crisps, for example, how much extra that could literally take you over for that day. And then if you're doing that consistently every day, it's no wonder now I completely understand exactly why over a long period of time you just eat consuming calories is then going to put on weight. And I think again that's been a bit of a revelation for me. As I said, I tried keto, I tried carnivore, I was even doing vegan, I did everything because I was like, well, if everyone was saying that if you try these you're going to drop this weight, there's so many videos like that, like the clickbait stuff, and if you go on carnivore diet you're going to drop weight, and I do believe
mm.
obviously you do a carb reduction, so there will be elements. If you're doing diet, you're automatically cutting out all that crap. The only way to lose weight is by being in a calorie deficit. That's the only way to do it. So there's, you might have a meal plan. You might go on Weight Watchers, you know, or you count calories. But ultimately, losing weight is about being in a deficit. You look at how many calories you burn, you work out how many calories you put in a calorie deficit, and you stick to that number. And if you stick to that number over a long period of time, that's the process. You will guarantee results. There is no way. Now the art then comes down in the tracking, doesn't it? Because are
Yeah.
you tracking everything? You know, to the point I wasn't tracking all my spices initially, and now I track all of my spices. So if I put one spoonful, I'm putting 5 grams of each spice that I put in. So and you realize actually, well, that sometimes that might be, if you're using lots of different spices, you're doing a marinade, that might be another 60 calories onto
Yeah.
that meal. So with that, if you're not tracking that well and you're going right up to your calories, then you're going over what your target should be. So tracking everything, it's the most
Yeah.
important thing. It's that, again, with that priming phase, 2,700 calories a day I was doing, I was starting to realize for it wasn't only good perspective of your body. My mindset was timing. My mindset was understand everything. And I was like 100 grams of rice, pasta, and I put them all next to each other to figure out what I could get more of. But then the other thing is, it's not only what you can get more of there, it's also how much it fills up your plate, right? Because it
Exactly.
might
Yeah. The
be,
volume.
yeah, exactly. And that is something you said to me once. So you talk about light bulb moments.
I
It
know what
was
you're going to
the,
say here.
you know what I'm going to say. Do you want to say it?
Is it? I feel like it was this. As soon as you started talking, I was like, you're going to go on to this
Yeah,
next. It's trying to
yeah,
eat as much as possible for the calorie target that you're in, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
That was only a
That
recent thing for you.
It was a recent thing, yeah. And that's what I mean. So it's like there's so much that you've got in your mind, right, that you pass on to me. And, you know, over a long period of times when we talk and we communicate and I tell you this, that's when these things come out. And that's why, again, over that long period of time, you can really build. And I'm now building my database almost in my own mind
Yeah.
of all these things that I could be doing. But yeah, I mean, that when you look at the plate, it's like, how much is that filling up of your plate? You know, what trade-off are you putting for that? So to have that Biscoff, for example, you know, and you have a spoonful of Biscoff maybe, or you do like 20 grams, you look at the tiny amount that it is
It's sickening.
versus what you could get in like yogurt for that amount of calories is insane, you know?
Yeah. So yeah. Unfortunately for you, you've got my voice in the back of your head now. Anytime you come to think of something, that's
Yeah,
all that I'm
well,
doing really. I just become that voice in the back of your head with training and nutrition.
100%. 100%. Yeah, no, definitely. But you know, and that is for me, it's a really good thing to have because there will be times that I'm sitting there and I'm trying to make a decision and then it kicks in and I'm like,
Yeah.
actually, no, I shouldn't be doing that. You know, I should be doing this, you know,
Yeah.
and that's something that I didn't really realize before I started the program. That's all like the non-tangible benefits that come with doing something like this, and just slowly building your mindset, slowly building your understanding, as I said, your database of your knowledge and, you know, kind of what you really want to be doing.
You're building that
So
trust in yourself as well, if that makes sense. So, like you said before, if you do that all or nothing and then you cave into that thing, you instantly lose trust in yourself that you'll be able to do it again and stick to it. What you're doing
100%.
now is compounding, like, even if it hasn't been perfect, which it hasn't, you can still stick to it and still get to those results.
Yeah.
Maybe not as fast as you want sometimes, but that's still happening. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yeah, 100%. And, you know, I think there is that thing, isn't there? Like when we go back to that all or nothing, it's like perfection doesn't exist. Strive for excellence. Strive to be the best. Strive to put in 110% effort. But there will be days where you don't necessarily do the thing that you should be doing. And that's fine. You are a human at the end of the day. You're going to fail at things. But then we reflect on that. And this is the good thing about the check-ins is, you know, I actually sit there and because I can't always remember the week. So I literally sit on my Fitness Pal and I go day by day. And then I look at what I ate and it reminds me of the day. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, what did I do there? What did I do? And then I kind of go by. And then that's where, like, this Saturday, for example, you know, I don't mind saying that wasn't a good day for me, right? It wasn't a good night for me. But I usually try and give you as much information that you can have so that you kind of just understand where I'm at. And that's anyone that does go on your program, I would just encourage them to give you detail because the more
Yeah.
detail that you put into it, the more effort, the more that you put into those check-ins, the more you're going to get out of them. Because you
Yeah.
know, ultimately, that's kind of where we develop, and I get your time to discuss some ideas and talk about some failures and make plans for, you know,
Yeah.
the next week and what we've got going on.
I think the context is so important of it, which is why I encourage people to put in a lot of information. Because if it's like had a bad day Saturday, what does that mean for me? Who it could mean anything.
Yeah,
And more often than not, even
yeah,
when you've had those in your check-ins, because you put the context in there, I think sometimes I just relay what you've put back to me, and you realize maybe it's not as bad as I thought it was. Do you know what I mean? And that
100%.
that's why it's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
important to put that information in, because I'll get to understand you as well and where your mindset's going with it. And I think I
yeah.
just, whenever
Without
you
a
ask
doubt.
me those sort of things, I come back to you with just questions, and then I don't hear from you because you're probably
Yeah.
mulling it over. But I think that's the important part
Yes,
of it,
definitely.
is you are reflecting
Yeah,
on it. Maybe it wasn't as bad, but what could I have done differently, or what does that future you do? I always say that to you. Like, what does the
definitely.
future
Yes.
Jack do? The operator that you want to be. What decision does he make there?
Yeah.
That is the important thing.
Yeah.
So you kind of touched on it already, but if someone is watching this and they're in the similar positions where you were before, or stuck in the same cycle of what they have been doing, what would you say to them?
If I can do it, then you can do it. And I think I wanted to be really real here with like my story and the things. Yeah, I wanted to be honest and talk about like my sugar addictions and all that sort of stuff because I think as a society, there's a lot of people that struggle with the same things. There's a lot of people that struggle, to understand what to do. They maybe do look at going on these crazy diets, and it doesn't last for long because easy come, easy go. If you do a Weight Watchers and you lose weight in 2 weeks, then a month later that's probably gonna bounce back. So I think for me, I struggled with this for years. I was always trying to search for the answers. And if something that I've said rings true for anybody here listening, then they should act on that because if that's what they really want, they want to get fit, they want to get healthy, they want to have a body they're proud of, they want to be able to use that as a vehicle for doing other things, to be, to play with their kids, to go and do maybe take up a new sport. If there's things that you want to do, you only get one chance to do that. You have one vessel, one body that you take around with you everywhere, and how much you put into that will determine how good that is for you. And health is wealth at the end of the day. If you're not focusing on health, it will deteriorate. It's like a garden, isn't it? If you don't water a garden, then it's going to die over time, over a long period of
Yeah,
time. And you need to, if you don't know what to do and you need some guidance, maybe you've tried lots of different things, having somebody on your side, creating the structure, creating the plan, giving you the guidance, being there for check-ins, and feeding back to you all the things that you can correct your course quickly and a lot quicker than if you were doing it yourself is the best possible thing that you can do. And if there's one thing that you should invest in, it's your health. There's a saying that Steve Jobs said once, which was, and again, not going to be word for word here, but it was something around not wanting to be the richest man in the cemetery, right?
mm,
And because you can't, it's like if people are focusing on just the business side of things or just something else that's taking up a lot of their time and they're not focusing on their health, then it will deteriorate over time. And it's that 1%, isn't it? You can either improve 1% every single day, and at the end of the year, you're 365% better, or you can deteriorate 1%, and at the end of the year, you're 365 percent worse. So,
yeah,
if you're ready to make a change now, it has got to come, and again, Tim, I think you'll probably agree with this, but you got to have people who are willing to make those changes
yeah,
because there is changes that people have to make. But the one thing is it will be gradual and it's not going to be just an overnight, all of a sudden, got to quit this, got to quit that, got to do that. And that's the one thing that I think was good from the program and it should hopefully give somebody comfort is that actually you're there to talk to them and figure out how you can best help them, not to just all of a
yeah,
sudden reformat their life. They need to give up all the things that they actually enjoy. It's about having the things you enjoy, but in moderation, and being disciplined enough, and having enough self-respect that you can say no to things if you know they're not good for you.
love it. Sums it up well there. One more small question, I think that kind of you touched on there as well, but you did kind of touch on it. But
Yeah.
who do you think this coaching would be perfect for? Tough question.
Um, I think there's so yeah, depends in what sense, I guess.
Yeah,
If you're looking for what type of people kind of work sense, a family sense, so it, yeah, I would say anybody who has, and I think there will be lots of people out there that fit this category, which is anybody who has tried to lose weight before and they don't know the right way to do it. They've maybe tried diets, they've tried different exercises, and it's kind of just never really worked for them. I personally think that anybody that goes on to your plan and follows it and communicates with you and is open and asks you questions to learn from you and understand what they can do better, anybody that's open like that, it's for them. If somebody's who it's not for is somebody who's closed-minded, think they know all the right ways, and they don't want to listen to advice from somebody who's been there and done it themselves and has also been there and done it for hundreds, thousands of other people.
Yeah, sweet. It's the coachable thing, right? That's something I ask. I do have it in a question somewhere. Like, you willing to be coachable? Because that is a big thing. And if
Yes.
I said it to someone actually today, I can't remember in what context, but it's the cliche thing that probably made me cringe. But if you always do what you've always done, you always get what you've always got, right? It's something has
Yeah.
to change. Something will have to change.
Yeah.
But yeah, love that. Appreciate it. You've absolutely nailed it there for me, I think. Yeah, that's it.
Glad
For
I can
now.
help,
Otherwise,
mate.
we could go on forever, but I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Let me stop the recording now.
Okay.